Okay. Hello, everybody. Steve here from The Varied Life, where me, the wife, and I, what we ended up doing is selling everything we had in the United States, and we put stuff in a couple of suitcases, and eventually we moved and retired here in South Korea. Yeah, so that's kind of an interesting thing, and big change, but really not too big of a change in the fact that I spent a lot of time in military. The military is where I met my wife here in Korea, and we had been back a number of times, with the military. And then finally, it got to the point of where we were like, okay, am I going to work till I'm almost 70 and then retire, and then have a few years, 5, 6, 7 years of golden years, or do we retire early and retire overseas where a dollar will go further and then we can enjoy retirement longer? So we opted for the latter. Some of the questions that I get deal with visas, and we've talked about that. It's a F1 and F4 visa because my wife is a returning Korean citizen. She was a Korean citizen, became a U.S. citizen, then came back. And so as a spouse of her, I'm able to have a long-term visa as well. So with the F1 and F4 visa, the thing is that we are not allowed to work in Korea for a Korean employer. So there's that. But we could work, there's people that I know who are retired in Korea under the same visas who do remote work from the United States. They do some kind of online business in the United States or whatever, selling stuff. And so that satisfies, you can do that kind of work, but you just can't work for a Korean employer here in Korea with those visas. That would be a whole change of visas. Now, being that I was military and I'm retired, I have access to the U.S. military bases here, which is kind of a great benefit. Some people have asked and said, well, how dependent are you on the military base for living in Korea? So, and that's a very good question, because you can have a number of people, like people in the Philippines or other places where there's overseas military bases where they retire and they spend the majority of their time and their resources and everything on that military base. Their life revolves around it. They wouldn't be able to survive without it. So what say you? That's the question that I get, and it's a very good question. I would say the majority of our life is local. So the majority of our food is bought locally at markets or at traders. It's kind of like a Costco. You even have a Costco here. It's about 30 minutes away on the Korean economy. There's a number of stores that we go to for food. So if we had to, yeah, we could absolutely do 100% with food in the Korean economy. It's not a big deal. The big deal is the meat, because I eat a lot of meat because I work out a lot. And so the commissary on the military base is generally cheaper. So that's kind of a benefit, kind of a bonus there. We also have a bank on post, which is Navy Federal Credit Union. So that's where my retirement check comes in. That's where our other funds are at. So if we need money, we go on post to get that, and then we'll transfer, or we'll go to our bank and we'll deposit that into our Korean bank. So we're kind of dependent upon that. It could be, could we do without that? It would be hard, but it's not impossible. We would have to do international bank transfers from a U.S. bank account to the Korean bank account. Of course, they would take their fees and whatever. There are some other apps that you might use, like Wise is a money transfer that generally has lower fees than banks in what they do. So, that comes into play as well. So that's definitely a huge bonus. The other benefits that we have for living and being dependent upon the U.S. military base, I wouldn't say dependent upon, but they're nice to have. And one of those is the ability to get our prescriptions filled on post. And if you're a retiree, you know about this, that you can get your medications filled for free at an on-post pharmacy. Well, the hospital, the All Good Hospital at Camp Humphreys, doesn't have enough staffing to support the retirees. It's kind of like on-call basis, standby basis. And if you can get an appointment, you're lucky. So it's definitely not something, we've tried, days and days and days of trying to get appointments, and it's just almost impossible. So usually if we need something, we need some medication, we have to go to a Korean hospital, which is covered by TRICARE Overseas Select, which is good. And then we'll get that prescription, and you have the choice to fill it at a Korean pharmacy. Or as a retiree, I can take that and go to the military pharmacy on post, and they'll fill it, and I don't have to pay anything. So pay a little bit of money or pay nothing. So we choose the latter. So that comes into play. Another bonus to being a retiree and having access to a military base is currently at this time is that retirees are allowed to have a post office box. And I can get 16 ounces of mail, I can get medical supplies, I can get medicines, things of that nature, no Amazon boxes. So, which really I don't understand, because it's not like there's a huge amount of retirees living in Korea. And, they're talking about even shutting that down, which I think is irresponsible, because so many veterans, retirees live in Korea, but they have things like get VA disability, VA medications, correspondence from the VA or, U.S. government, so on and so forth, pension stuff, investment stuff. And so really to cut that off, I think would be a disservice to retired veterans and veterans as a whole. That just doesn't make sense, And again, the amount of retirees here in Korea is not large. So it's not like if you gave everybody, a post office box and even allowed them to get Amazon boxes, delivered here, it wouldn't break the bank. That's for sure. But really what it comes down to is the SOFA agreement. And that's why SOFA, Status of Forces Agreement here in Korea, with contractors and active duty military and their families are covered under the SOFA agreement, so they can get the shipping of Amazon boxes and so on and so forth. Whereas people like me, who's a retiree, I'm not covered under SOFA, so I can't get those Amazon boxes. So, but, off post, it doesn't really matter, because you have Naver, you have Coupang, you have a number of online ordering that is just like Amazon, and we can get pretty much anything that we want that we would get off of Amazon on those online sites. So some of the prices are a little bit more expensive than they would be on Amazon, but then again, you're talking about shipping things from the United States to Korea, going through customs fees, and so on and so forth. So there's a reason for some of those higher prices. And basically, if you order something from overseas, anything that's $150 and over, even on Naver or Coupang or things like that, you're going to pay a fee to have that shipped to Korea. So just be mindful of that when you order things here in Korea from those websites. Other than that, let's see, what are some other benefits? So we talked about medical, we talked about the post office. The standby medical, which is almost impossible to get. We do our dental off post. So there are a number of dental clinics off post that will take TRICARE dental plans and so on and so forth for routine checkups and things like that. Anything above and beyond, you're going to come out of pocket for that. However, the great thing about being retired in Korea is that the prices for dental work is really small compared to, it's really less expensive than the United States. In case in point, I ended up getting, it cost me 7 million won, which I'm wondering, 7 million won, what is the, let's see. And we'll divide that by 1285, so that comes out to about $5,400. And I ended up getting 2 implants on the lowers, and then I ended up getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I'll have 6 crowns and some other dental work done for $5,400. And yeah, it's pretty amazing because of the work that I was able to get done here for that price. is very small compared to what I would pay in the United States. So in the United States, getting one implant would probably cost me about $2,300 to $2,500. So just for the implants alone, I would blow my wad right there on that for $5,400, and maybe, it would cost even more after all of the appointments and so on and so forth. So dental is really good here in Korea. Of course, dental is pretty good overseas in general. Wouldn't want to go to Turkey, wouldn't want to go to a place where I cannot, if something happens that I couldn't go to that country in a fairly quick manner to get things fixed, or try to get them fixed in the place where I already live. So the great thing about Korea and dental is that they use the most up-to-date technology, and the implants that they use are, world-renowned. So yeah, we saved a bunch of money, not by switching to Geico, but by using Korean dental. And we had to pay out of pocket, but it was above and beyond what I would normally get for normal routine treatments or normal, cavities and things like that. This went above and beyond that, so we paid out of pocket. And we knew that was going to happen. So we had saved money before we even came to Korea, and I was considering getting dental work done in another country, even before we decided to retire overseas. Let's see, some of the other things is the PX. PX, you have clothing, you have electronic items. The good thing about the PX, not really dependent upon them, but they are good for some big purchases. So like we got a 77-inch TV, and they do price matching. So I was able to price match that TV using Best Buy and Amazon, and I was able to get a lower price. So that's definitely a bonus. If you buy electronic goods off on the Korean economy, they are really, really expensive. So yeah, unless you have somebody who works for Samsung or LG or can get a huge discount or something like that, the PX is really good for getting those one-time purchase electronic items, kind of like, PlayStation, TVs, larger electronic components, computers, things of that nature. Not so much in Korea. Korea, you can get some good deals on like monitors, large size monitors, which like what I have here. You got to shop around just like you would in the States, but the PX does offer some good deals when it comes to those items. Let's see, the other benefit. Oh, another question people asked is like in Korea, they have queen size beds, king size beds, those size beds. But the question was asked, do American size sheets, queen size sheets, fit on a Korean queen size bed? And in our experiences in the 3 places that we've been to, the answer is yes. So hopefully that answers the question as somebody who's thinking about retiring in Korea. But the last straw is whether those fitted queen sheets fit on a Korean size queen bed. There's your answer. So yeah, that should be the tipping point. So just go ahead and come and retire in Korea. Other benefits of the military base, besides the PX and the commissary food court, you have your military gyms, so you've got, weight and workout equipment, you got running tracks, you got pools, exercise machines, saunas, things of that nature, which for retirees is free. So you can't beat that with a stick. On the Korean economy, if you go to a gym, you're going to be paying some big dollars for gym membership. And of course, the more amenities, you're going to have to pay a higher price. I was really surprised at the price of like right across the street from where we live in the apartments. There's a gym that got some weight machines and things like that. And I went over there just to see, what is the cost of the gym. And it was just crazy expensive. It's like, I don't see how anybody could afford to do that unless you're really, really serious about bodybuilding and things like that. But apparently that's a thing here in Korea. I haven't checked out all the gyms or a lot of gyms, but just the ones close by, it just didn't seem too cost effective. With that being said, the gyms off post, gyms on post, a lot better, at least in Camp Humphreys area anyway. Camp Humphreys is the largest U.S. military base overseas. with like 30,000, 35,000 people. And they're going to up that to around 40,000 or more. They just finished building another tower of family housing, which is going to be for, I think, senior NCOs and things like that and their families. But yeah, definitely benefits when it comes to gyms and working out and things like that. And then, of course, the other benefit to living close to a military base and having access is that you get to use the food court. So, you got your Arby's, your Burger King, your Taco Bell, your Popeye's Chicken, your, a number of different fast food restaurants, Pizza Hut, that is found in the food court at Camp Humphreys. And you can find those similar fast food places in Korea, but you're going to have to do some traveling. You could also go to a Korean mall. Like yesterday, we just went to Starfield Mall in Onsong, Pyeongtaek Onsong area, which has 2 levels of food courts. So they have a food court on the second floor, and then on the main floor, they have a kind of gourmet street, which is even more restaurants. But they have American westernized food, they have Chinese, Japanese, Italian food, pretty much everything that you could want. I will say that the burgers in a lot of the malls that we've been to are kind of lacking when it comes to quality and taste. But their Korean foods and the Asian foods are on point. Usually those are the best meals to get there. So yeah, you're gonna have to do a little bit of traveling if you want to hit a food court area in a mall. But the mall is in such better condition than the malls in the United States, in my opinion. Now, this is me coming from Colorado, malls in Denver, Colorado Springs, Pueblo, seeing those malls in the conditions that they have. The Korean mall here in Pyeongtaek is way better. So yeah, it's a lot cleaner, a lot nicer, higher end. It's kind of enjoying to go to, and yeah, it's a lot better. So as far as food, talking about food, how dependent are we on the commissary on the military base versus local foods? Like I said, the one thing that we get is a lot of meat and maybe some yogurt, some milk, those things, some frozen vegetables. That's kind of, and oatmeal, things like that. Those are the basic staples we get. Some peanut butter. We'll get those at the commissary on post, but pretty much anything after that we buy locally. So I'd say about 80% of our food bill is filled by going to the Korean markets and stores. And again, like I said, you got things like Traders and Costco on the Korean economy. You can get good deals. And matter of fact, we just went to Traders yesterday when we went to the mall. So there's that. Did we talk about the post office box? I can't remember if we did. But if you're a retiree, I can't remember if we talked about it or not. But if you're a retiree, you can get a post office box on post, limited to 16 ounces. Yeah, we did talk about this. 16 ounces, no Amazon boxes. Okay, so we're good there. Yeah, that's other medical or vet benefits. They don't have a VA clinic overseas. The only overseas VA clinic is in the Philippines. And that's kind of weird because you would think in the largest overseas U.S. military base at Camp Humphreys, the largest in the world, you would have a VA clinic, but they don't. The only one that they have is in the Philippines. So if you have to go to a VA clinic for whatever reason, I don't know why, you would have to go to the Philippines to do that. But if you've already got your VA disability and you're done with all that stuff, you can use local providers and then file for your treatments and what you paid, and then you get reimbursed for that. So I've got that, but usually what I end up using is my TRICARE Overseas Select for being a military retiree. As far as like vehicles, we bought a vehicle off post. We're not allowed to buy U.S. spec vehicles on post by the military car sales place, which doesn't really matter because they're kind of overpriced anyway. I never buy new again unless I win the lottery. But we registered our car in Korea, and then to be able to drive it on post, we were able to take our title, our insurance, all of that information, and we could register it on post so that we could drive on post. And I'm able to do that because of my retiree status. Let's see. Emergency room, emergency medical. People have asked me, if you have an emergency, can you go to the military base emergency room? And the answer is yes, you can. The problem is that Camp Humphreys Hospital, the All Good Hospital, is understaffed, it's undermanned, and from what I see on the Camp Humphreys support group about the emergency room and their response times and the treatment that they get, it's kind of lacking. But that's kind of on par with other military bases like Fort Carson, Colorado. I would say they're a little bit better. But you're still going to, like I went to the emergency room and eventually I had to get an emergency gallbladder removal because it was rotting inside me. Technical term, rotting, necrosis. But I ended up sitting in an emergency room needing emergency surgery for 4 to 6 hours. And even then, I had to come back the next day to get seen again so that I could actually get the emergency surgery. Otherwise, I would have to wait 1 or 2 months to get a surgery appointment. So in other words, the emergency doctor said, yeah, you, wink, wink, if you come back tomorrow and complain of these same symptoms, yeah, they'll get you the emergency surgery, that day or the next day. So that's what we ended up doing. But really, if you don't have enough medical personnel on a military hospital and you don't have enough doctors and nurses and all that to support the troops, families, contractors, etc., how much medical support are you going to have for your retirees that is on a standby basis? Now, again, you can go to the emergency room, but how good of a service you're going to get and how quickly you're going to be seen in that emergency setting with, minimal staff, you can kind of figure that out on your own. So if something happened to me, I would probably go to a Korean hospital, which is like 10, 15 minutes away, and get treated there because that's covered by my TRICARE Overseas Select. So standards of care, pretty good in Korean hospitals. Of course, it depends on the hospital that you go to. Of course, the smaller clinics and things like that, the older hospitals, you might not get as good a quality care as you would at like one of the big top 3 medical centers, like Samsung Medical Center in Seoul, for example. But then the same thing applies in the United States. If you have a smaller hospital, local hospital versus a big university hospital, you're going to get varying standards of care. And it's just the way it is around the world. But the good thing is that I do have choices that if something was really bad, I can go to the emergency room on Camp Humphreys. And then if it's past their level of care, which I've seen a lot of people post that they went to the emergency room on post and then they got transferred to the Korean hospital off post. So yeah, that comes into play. More often, I was surprised at how often it happens. So maybe cut out the middleman unless it's really serious to get Barney basic life-saving attention, and then they transfer you to a Korean emergency room for whatever ails you. So the big question is, would we be able to survive without the U.S. military base? Yes, we could. There are some niceties that come into play, but if for some reason world peace erupted and the U.S. military closed down all its bases and left, we would be able to make it here in Korea. We just have to pay a little bit more for meat for me to build my muscles to be a strong, strapping young man of 57. But, as far as everything else is concerned, yeah, we might have to pay a little bit more, but the big things like the TV, the computers, printers, and all the expensive stuff has already been paid for. So really, we're just talking about living expenses, and maybe, like for clothes, I would have to drive to Pyeongtaek and find a big and tall store versus going to the PX, which is a few minutes away. Korean styles are different than American styles. Let's just put it that way. So getting used to the style would be an adjustment to do. But other than that, yeah, it's definitely doable. So yeah, hopefully that answers the question. There are people that get cell phone service on post through the PX, but I think those are covered under the SOFA agreement. We get our phone service through a local Korean provider, and that comes out of our Korean bank account. We have a Korean bank account, so we have automatic deductions for our phone service and our gas, heating, things of that nature, and then we'll have to pay things like our property taxes, which isn't much compared to the United States. So yeah, a lot of benefits to retiring overseas. And like I said, we were able to retire early with the funds that we had instead of having to wait till I was almost 70 in the United States to retire, where expenses are ever increasing. And I wasn't living in like Denver or Aurora. I wasn't living in Loveland, where housing prices are bad, property taxes are huge, food is expensive. I was living in a small town, southern Colorado town of about 3,000 people, Florence, Colorado, and our property tax would go up on average $100 or more every single year. So when we bought our house for like $135,000, which was a screaming deal because it was a bank-owned property, but it was like almost 4,000 square feet, master bath, 5-piece master bedroom, master bath, another full bath, 3 bedrooms, had a powder room, had a full basement, which wasn't finished, but that's where we had our gym, oversized 2-car garage. It was really a screaming good deal on a golf course. I don't golf, but our property tax would go up $100 or more every single year. So when we sold our property and we had paid it off, our property tax had gone to $1,900 for the year. So all you got to do is and it was like clockwork. It was $100 minimum that it would go up. Sometimes it was a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less, but it averaged $100, just over $100 each year. So if you do the math, and it ends up, it's like, okay, well, if I was, 50, and I've got like 20 years, and paying, let's say, $1,900 a year, and then the next year it goes up to 2,000. Then the year after that it goes up to 20. You start doing the math and add numbers, and you're looking at, okay, well, when I retire in my late 60s, how much is my property tax going to be? It's not hard for that to be, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. So retiring overseas in many places, if you buy a place, you're going to have less property tax. You're still going to have it. It's still going to go up. There's still going to be some increases, but not as heavy as what we saw in the United States. And then if you end up renting places, you don't have to worry about that. But you have to worry about putting down a large deposit. The key money that they do here in Korea, if you have a large deposit, not like first and last month's rent, we're talking like, 40, 50% of the property's price you give as a deposit, and then you don't have to pay any monthly rent. I mean, that's a screaming deal, but you need to have that big chunk of money. So, there's some pros and cons. You can find places that will do monthly rents. You'll find a lot of these places closer to U.S. military bases, but the majority of Koreans will have a key money rental option, or they buy it under a mortgage. They finance it for 30 years or whatever. And then, of course, interest rates go up and down and so on and so forth. I don't know any foreigners who have procured financing and being retired in Korea with a Korean bank to purchase a property. I imagine there's still, income verification, so many years of income statements of how much you got coming in, your pension or accounts, 401ks, or whatever it is that you're getting to prove that you can make these payments. So I know they do a debt to income ratio thing, but I don't personally know anybody who has bought a property here in Korea who's a retiree with Korean financing, let alone U.S. financing. So yeah, because there's a problem. If U.S. banks, if you don't pay and you skip out on paying, how are they going to repossess a foreign property? I don't know if that's a thing. So, I tried looking it up and it just doesn't seem to be a thing. So maybe it's out there, but it's very rare. Usually what I end up seeing is that people who come to retire here, kind of like me and the wife, who did the F4 and the F1 visa, is that they will have paid off their house or they have a bunch of money and they can buy an apartment or house outright. And that's what we ended up doing, is buying our apartment outright. So boom, that's done and paid for. This place is free and clear, minus property taxes and apartment fees. So the biggest chunk of our expenses is nothing. It's really, really low. So while if the military base was gone, or they did just pick up and leave because world peace happened, that'll ever happen. We might have some increases in some areas, but because we have a paid off property, we have that income, we have that disposable income that we'd be able to make up those shortages. So it's not a big deal. We still try to save money. We'll look at things and see things and be like, oh, but I can get this online for $2 or $3 cheaper online or whatever. And it's so we still do that from time to time. It's funny. The wife finally beat that into me to try to save money and search for deals. And now we're retired, and it's kind of like, what, we can afford to eat out. We can afford to buy some stuff, and we can afford to get a whatever it is. But still, we still look for deals. It's just a thing that we do, especially my wife. She's always looking for deals. But yeah, that's what we got going on. So for the people who are wondering about how dependent we are on the local military base, those are the things there. What would be the biggest thing that would bother me if it went away? It would be the gym on post, because having access to that gym, we go 4 days a week, full gym. You got gyms on post that have indoor swimming pools, just great facilities, and saunas and things like that. So yeah, that would be something that I would sorely miss if I wasn't able to do that. But pretty much everything else, and maybe second would be the PX for oversized clothes. So that would force me to go to find a big and tall store in Korea. And I don't know, I'm just getting to the point where it's like, don't shop much. So yeah, that's what it comes down to. Other than that, I don't really can think of any other benefits or how dependent we are on the military base, other than the mail. The mail is a good thing to have, but even if that went away, there are services, of course you have to pay for them. Well, they will take your mail delivered to a U.S. address, and then they'll scan them, and then they'll send that to you over email. So there are workarounds for things like that. Pay 10, 15, 20 bucks, $12 a month or whatever to do that. Is it really worth it? Probably not. But most of the stuff nowadays is delivered online through email, but we still get some things that, we're kind of old school. So you still like the paper and getting the bills or documents or statements or whatever. So we're not 100% reliable on the digital life, but yeah. It's definitely doable. So anyway, hopefully that answers some questions as far as how dependent we are on the local military base, because people have been asking about that. Other retirees who are thinking about retiring here in Korea, and they're kind of wondering, well, I think it comes down to, how much or how close do I need to be to a military base, and what's the risk reward? Is there enough reward for me to move closer to a military base, or can I live farther away? There's people who live 30, 45 minutes away from a military base that work on the military base. So it's kind of like the United States. If you have access, you could, come to a military base and do shopping once every couple of weeks if you wanted to, or not. I wouldn't necessarily limit myself to being close to a military base. But for us, the wife has family close by. We're really familiar with this area. We like the apartment that we're in, and that we bought it. And if we leave, we could rent that out. And that's another option. Even if we go retire in another country or something like that, or had to go back stateside, which I don't foresee us doing that at all. Just nothing holding me back there, no ties or anything. So, yeah. Yeah, there it is. So, the other thing, taxes. People have been asking about taxes, and what taxes do you pay? Well, since I don't work for a Korean company or employed by any Koreans because of our visa status, my taxes, I just pay U.S. taxes and that's it. So I don't have to worry about accruing or paying taxes here in Korea because I don't make income here in Korea. With that being said, if, like, we have this apartment, let's say we left this apartment, we bought another one, and we rent this one out, now I would be making money here in Korea. It's still allowable by the visa that we have because it's not employment, it's just an investment property. But we would have to pay taxes on, what we made off of that rental income to Korea. And of course, I think we'd have to pay some to the United States, but there's no double taxation. So we're not familiar with that because we haven't done that at all, but that is a thing that I've been looking at as far as future plans that we have. So yeah, it's, if we can end up finding another smaller apartment with maybe a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and we can rent out this 4-bedroom, 2-bath in a very nice apartment building, whether it's rented out to Koreans or American military or contractors or whatever in their families, that's a bonus. And it's probably about 1.5 million, 1,500,000 divided by 1285. So it'd be about $1,200, $1,200, $1,300, $1,400, somewhere within that price range. And then management fees for properties here in Korea, from what I found out so far, is about 10%. So, $110 for that. So basically we could make anywhere from $1,000 to maybe $1,200 a month profit off of the rental property if we rented this place out. And of course there's other expenses. You got to have an emergency fund, to cover repairs and, things that break. But an extra $1,000 a month, that could come in pretty handy. Definitely for anybody, So we're considering that. Just got to save up some nickels and dimes and try to get another apartment. We'll see how that goes. So anyway, that's what we got going on. That's how dependent we are on the local military base. Do you need a military base to retire in Korea as a retired military? No, but there are a lot of nice benefits to being close to a military base. But like I said, there's people that I know that live like 45 minutes away, get in their car, boom, they come to the base, they use the gym, they use the commissary, the PX. It's not really a big deal. It's kind of similar like what we did, where we would go from Florence, Colorado and drive up to the Springs and hit, big stores or hit the military base up there. It's just we would consolidate all the things that we would do into one big trip for that day and then drive back and we'd be good to go. So yeah, it might be something to take into consideration. If you want to live out in the sticks and have a little bit more peace and quiet and you don't like the apartment life or, something of that nature, that is an option. It's still an option. And it also depends upon how obviously if you have a Korean spouse, they're going to fit in real well here in Korea, more than the American, native-born American. Is it important for you to have, local fellow expats in your area? Do you need that? A lot of people do. I do. At least just to be around fellow Americans, that seems to be a thing. And even for my wife too. So we get a little bit of comfort every time we drive onto the military base. It's kind of like, okay, we're kind of home, because we're retired military and that's what we did for the majority of our lives. So yeah, that's what we get. So any other questions you have, put them in the comment section down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more information. Post some more videos from time to time on health and fitness and retiring in Korea. Hopefully we'll be able to do some more videos in Korea, but probably not many, because in October we're going to vacation in Hawaii. So we're going to Oahu and visit our daughter, and we'll be there for a while. So we'll get back to the beaches, the beautiful beaches of Oahu and Hawaii, and enjoy that for what we can while we can. So we'll be making some videos, and then when we come back, then we'll be, by that time it'll be fall and winter. So yeah, we'll be hitting some other places up, and definitely cooler. I don't like humidity. I hate humidity. So for the past couple of months, I've basically just been going to the gym and hibernating. So let's see. Got some comments here. How are Christians looked at in Korea? Is there any stigma there? No, Korea is as far as the makeup of Korea, there's a lot of Buddhist influence, but there's a lot of Christian influence. So you will have, like my wife, she went to Buddhist public schools and Christian public schools, which is weird. It sounds kind of weird that they would do that. But a lot of Korean churches are around. Definitely prior to COVID, there was a ton of churches, but COVID seemed to kind of, a lot of churches went away. But yeah, there's a big Christian segment in Korea, so it's not like it's looked down upon as being a Christian. There's, Amerasian denominational churches off post that have, Korean spouses and their spouse, Koreans and their spouses that have services in English and Korean, or so there's somewhere just English services. So yeah, it's not looked down upon. It's not like you're going to, let's say, Bali or Malaysia, which is primarily Muslim, Sunni Muslim, or anything like that, where it's a very small demographic of Christians. And Christianity is kind of looked down upon in some of those countries, in some areas. I'm not saying as the government as a whole, but there are, you don't see that here in Korea. There's a lot of Catholics here in Korea, so that's a thing. I don't know if that's your thing, but there's a lot of Catholics in Korea as well. It says also, how is the culture in the cities compared to the U.S.? That's kind of, it's different because we don't see as many homeless in Korean cities that we did in the United States, like Loveland or Aurora or Denver, things of that nature. LA, San Bernardino, I've got family there. Just a lot of the bigger cities, you'll see rampant crime, you'll see homelessness, tents everywhere. Korea doesn't have that. They have some homeless, but it's very rare, and it's considered a shame to be homeless, and the homeless don't act stupid or disrespectful here in Korea, and the very few that I've seen. So yeah, a vast difference in that. The big cities like Seoul in certain areas, culture can be anywhere from refined to high end to operas and theaters and art museums and so on and so forth. Pretty high end stuff. Then you also have some other city areas where it's just like a common city. You've got small stores, kind of like bodegas and things like that, and convenience stores. Apartments, a lot of apartment buildings. That's the majority of where people live here in Korea, is in apartments. Not like the U.S. where mostly houses. They do have houses here in Korea, but you're gonna pay a pretty penny for some nice housing, unless you buy like an old farmhouse or something like that. So. But yeah, it's you can go to Busan. We've been to Busan. We've been to Seoul, and yeah, it's just kind of it's a big city. It just seems to be nicer and cleaner, and the people are more respectful. What I see in our experiences here in Korea than it was in the United States, if that helps. But then again, we've been to Colorado Springs and Denver and Loveland, Aurora, things of that nature. But generally, overall, I would say Koreans are more respectful and polite than Americans. So hope that answers that question there. Other than that, benefits of living in Korea is you can pretty much get anything delivered here. You can get food delivered, you can get furniture, you can get cars. That's how we got our car, is we ordered it on an online app and somebody drove it here, dropped it off. We test drove it for 3 days, got it checked out by a couple of mechanics. And then, we kept the car. If you didn't like the car, then you just call and send a message saying, hey, we didn't like the car, come take it back. And they'll send somebody to come pick up the car, and then you can go through and. So yeah, anything that you want, you can get ordered and it can be delivered in Korea, which is amazing. A lot of food. People go to restaurants and things like that, but a lot of people will have food ordered in and delivered to them. And delivery fees are not that expensive. Another question, any specialty shops or just chain stores like the States? Specialty shops, like what kind of specialty are you talking about? I mean, there's, they have Starbucks here, they have chain stores and fast food restaurants, Subway and Burger King and things like that. But they also have their own fast food restaurants here in Korea, franchises and things like that. And then they also have their own brands. Generally, what I found is that Korean coffee shops are a lot better than Starbucks. So, you get somebody that actually knows how to make an espresso versus a Starbucks where it's like press a button, boom, 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 here's your drink. And some Korean coffee shops have that as well. But you can find some Korean coffee shops, there's a lot of them in Korea, to where you have people that know how to make espressos. And it's just not punching numbers. And they know how to do latte art. And so I don't know if that's answering your questions. But they got specialty stores like for sporting goods, for golf, for cars, for knitting, hobbies, things like that. Says it would be cool if you'd like to do a walk around town video showing cool spots. Yeah, and if you look, I've got some. I think we went to Road 150, which is a coffee shop. We went there and got some video, and then we went to one other place. But then I ended up getting surgery on my eye, so that kind of stopped our weekly or bi-monthly attraction video deal thing that we were going to do. And of course now we're going to Hawaii. But yeah, that's we're definitely going to pick up on that and do some more videos and traveling around and stuff like that. Matter of fact, when I go to my next follow-up appointment for my eye surgery that I had, I guess we'll do just kind of a quick video on how we get up to Samsung Medical Center, and we'll get some video of that and kind of how crazy and different it is in that, the number 3 medical center in Korea, kind of different than what's in the United States. And so we'll be making a video on that. But yeah, we're definitely going to be doing some more videos of walking around and things like that. But during the summer and the heat and the humidity, it's just, it's not going to happen. it's, let's see, what is it? It's almost 8 o'clock, and it's 70 degrees, and it's 93% humidity. So when it gets up into the 80s and the 90s, temperature-wise, it's just, I'm not walking out and doing a walking tour. So for the summer, those times, ain't gonna happen. But the rest of the year, we'll see what we can do with that. So, well, anyway, since it is now 8 o'clock in the morning here on Friday, we got to get ready. We go to the gym 4 days a week, and today is another gym day, so we're going to do that. So, there's the video. I hope it answers some questions. And if you got any questions, feel free to ask them either in the comment section, or you can find me on Facebook, and then you can send me a PM, especially people that are considering retiring in the same boat as we, me being a military retiree, my wife being a prior Korean citizen, and how we came back, and the visa situation. We can share some information. But a lot of that information is already covered on this YouTube channel. So you just need to spend a little bit of time, like, subscribe, You'll find the information. We used an immigration lawyer when we got here. Awesome, awesome company service. Well worth the money that we paid. I mean, I wouldn't want to do it DIY. Just too many unnecessary trips. And, you know, you're retired. You pay for people to do stuff for you now. So, but yeah, check out the other videos. And then, yeah, that's going to be it for today. So we'll see you on the next video. And hopefully that answers your questions. Peace. All right. See ya.